Since 2019, church buildings all over Algeria have been forcibly closed by the government, like this one in Tizi Ouzou in the north-central part of the country. Church leaders from various denominations have been arrested and are facing time in prison. Now, the government claims they don't have an issue with Christians practicing their faith in the Muslim country, where the followers of Jesus make up less than 1% of the 40 million plus population, as long as they keep to themselves and don't share the gospel with Muslims. Karim Mahdi is an Algerian pastor now living in Europe and works in a ministry that is producing Christian media content that is being watched and heard all over Algeria.
Tu peux être chrétien sans problème.
The government doesn't have a problem with the practice of Christianity, but in the Constitution, evangelism isn't allowed. If you do, the government will bother you. As you are aware, many churches are closed,
including the largest Protestant churches. Now, the government won't admit the churches are closed for religious reasons. They want the churches to register and have control over them.
Before 2019, when we could say there was persecution in society and from the family. But after 2019, the persecution started to come from the government. And this is why we met with the government face to face to give us permission to continue our faith legally, because we are already rejected and persecuted from society and our family.
Appealing to the government has not slowed the closure of churches, with only a few churches still open throughout the entire country. Many believers are finding other ways to meet, including in small groups in secret or online, since the government crackdown in 2019.
Beaucoup, oui, oui.
Yes, there are many churches underground, but we don't know how many. We don't even know each other. We hear about underground churches here and there are many of them. Up until recently, the underground churches were left alone, even though by law they aren't allowed to. But they continue to meet and pray. But that has now changed.
Karim Rizki, who became a Christian at the age of 17 from a Muslim background in Algeria, is now a professor of comparative religions, including Islam, in Paris, France, and is actively involved in the North African Christian community in both Europe and North Africa.
Mais dans ce contexte difficile que traverse l'Église en Algérie,
under these circumstances, that doesn't mean the church is not growing. We thank God that we have many ministries in Algeria at this time with children, youth, and others. We have discipleship and teaching of theology. We never thought we would arrive at this time of persecution.
So what changed after 2019 with the government? Churches closed, pastors arrested, and more opposition against evangelical Christians?
It's not one or two things. Maybe it's us that has contributed to this persecution. Maybe we did some things wrong as leaders, or maybe it's the laws of our country. We don't know when the politicians will use them against us, the laws and the Constitution. There are many factors. I can't say which one. But we trust God and keep our faith. The underground church and ministries are growing, and God is opening many doors through persecution, which is part of our faith. But our leaders and people in our Christian community are tired because of the situation.
Pastor Salah Shalah, who leads the country's largest Protestant church and is president of the Protestant Church of Algeria, has faced much opposition and has been targeted by the government, and has faced various charges, arrests, and court appearances for practicing non-Muslim rites without permission and organizing a protest because of the crackdown on churches. Pastor Salah could face years in prison. After his full gospel church in Tizi Ouzou was informed it would be closed, police interrupted the service and forcibly removed the church members. Now, as for those who leave Islam to follow Jesus, the opposition they face comes from many places.
First of all, from people who are close to them, like friends. Then secondly, from parents. When the family knows about that, they immediately persecuted them and kicked them out of the house, and also from society. They lose their jobs. So it's not easy for them to practice their new faith.
The Christian faith has a long history in North Africa, going back to the 2nd century, especially among the ethnic Berbers. Renowned church fathers such as St. Augustine hailed from Algeria. However, because of division and heresy in the church and invasions by Arab Muslims, Much of Algeria's public Christian worship and witness disappeared by the 7th century. But that started to change in the 20th century. Professor Arizki says that after Algeria gained independence from France in 1962, there was more freedom for missionaries in the country.
À partir des années 70,
In the 1970s, more Algerians were accepting the Lord, but it wasn't easy. In the 1980s, more people came to faith in Jesus. The good news at that time, in 1981, evangelism in the Kabyle area started to increase. From 1982 until 1999, Christianity was growing, and people of all generations, teenagers, older people, men and women, accepted the Lord. There was a revival in the Kabyle area, and in every village there were underground churches, and they were growing in the Arab areas as well.
Almost all the followers of Jesus in Algeria come from Muslim backgrounds.
The revival of Christianity in Algeria started in 1990 with a new generation of believers. This encouraged others in their faith in Jesus and to share, but they paid the price. These new Christians were a good example against all the politics and radical Muslims at the time. Some of them went on to have a good position in society, including in the government. The persecution began when it was learned there were many Christians. Some of them lost their jobs. Some were persecuted and verbally abused, and physically abused when it became known they were Christians. What we see in this second generation of Christians and growing up in Christian homes, we are seeing the fruit because of their faith, of their parents, and how they educated their children in school and in faith.
We've heard stories all over the Muslim world of followers of Islam having dreams and visions. You're also hearing some pretty incredible stories coming out of Algeria as well.
We have heard of many having dreams and visions of Jesus. I met a lady who said Jesus appeared before her. It wasn't a dream, he was there.
This lady, who we'll call Sawa, was divorced and was about to take her life and the life of her daughter and her daughter's unborn child, who was the result of a rape because of the shame this caused.
Suddenly she saw Jesus, and he said, "Why do you want to kill the child I created?" She didn't know it was Jesus. She never saw his face, and she started panicking. He said, "Let the baby live and name him Adam."
So Sawa didn't go through with her plan. She would later share her experience with a Christian friend who told her that it was Jesus whom she encountered. Both Sawa and her daughter made a decision to follow Christ and be baptized.
The boy was born and is now age 9. I met this boy. When these people have these experiences, they share with others about what has happened to them and give their testimonies.
La situation actuelle.
The persecution isn't stopping us from our faith. Yes, we have had arrests, and we will never know what will happen next. This generation is growing in Christian families, and they face persecution. Many churches are closed, and few are open, but we have underground churches that continue to practice their faith under these circumstances.
It can be very difficult in a country like Algeria, which is a Muslim nation, to do evangelism, which makes what you're doing so important through media.
Les médias, les réseaux sociaux, radio.
God is opening many doors, including social media, to do evangelism. We never attack another culture or religion. We just share our faith with love and respect.
Karim Mistar is the CEO of Channel North Africa and a partner of the Voice of the Martyrs Canada. Mistar has seen firsthand how effective the 24/7 satellite channel has been in encouraging Christians in Algeria who often have to meet in secret. Mistar, who grew up as a Muslim in France before coming to Christ, says he was told by a close friend that met some Muslim men in Algeria that they were extremely disappointed when the channel went off the air for almost 3 years before relaunching in December 2021.
You need to know that this channel was the only thing we had. And when I heard this testimony, I was really shocked because I saw the media not only as something we use to spread the gospel, but also something not only for the church and the believers, but also for the unbelievers and especially the Muslims who they are really thirsty and hunger about the Word of God.
The satellite channel, which began in 2000, is the first to broadcast productions in the various languages spoken and understood in North Africa: Arabic, Berber, and French. The broadcasts feature a vast range of programming, including life stories, documentaries, talk shows, teaching, children's programming, musical performances and dramas, and much more. Mistar says he talked with a family in Algeria on Zoom about the importance of the channel for them and having a connection with them through social media because they're not able to attend church.
They could only meet in houses, but as a small groups, because if too many in the same house and they had to worship God very not loud, because if the Muslims hear them, they can call the police and the police come. But I was blessed to see them and to see this brother saying that in the midst of the persecution, he was still evangelizing, spreading the gospel, having people and new people in his house.
Two of Mistar's colleagues were arrested in Algeria in December, likely for their involvement with the channel, and were then taken to the police station.
The police took everything, all the material, equipment, hard drive disk, everything was took by the police, the phones, and they were sorry because even the equipment of the channel was took by the police. So it was, we human, so it was a shock, and we immediately asked prayers to the churches around and believers. So we started to pray very strongly for the brothers.
In spite of the persecution and the challenges, many are coming into a relationship with Jesus in Algeria and all over the Muslim world. And God is using media as one of the ways to reach them.
We also share with the new believers as they come from a Muslim background, when they share that Canadian and other people in the world give a lot of money just for ministries to be able to share the gospel. They're just amazed, and that's part of the process of changing their mind about how they see the world and how they see the Christian. And from our experience, we know, because we met hundreds of them, Muslims from all countries, and not only North Africans, but even people from Iran, who came to the Lord just because of the testimony, the witness of the believers, the Christians, and the love they manifest, they give to the Muslim community in the world.